Well, how many times have we heard this? You will own nothing and be happy. This is the attitude we're getting from Ubisoft. Ubisoft execs coming out saying you got to get comfortable to subscription-based gaming. Well, before we get fully into the article and the video today, please do me a favor, like, share, subscribe, and don't forget to leave a comment down below. Just put an emoji down below or something. Just throw whatever you want down below. An executive at Assassin's Creed maker Ubisoft has said that gamers need to get comfortable not owning their games before video game subscriptions truly take off. When you look at subscription-based gaming, there's pros and there's cons with it. The cons, obviously, is you don't own the game. You no longer own your games, you no longer own your digital content. But in some cases, like World of Warcraft, you still got to be able to pay that subscription to be able to play the game. So do you truly actually own the game? Even though you buy the subscription, or not the subscription, you go out and buy the discs originally for World of Warcraft, install the game, but you're still paying a monthly fee for access to their servers, and this is not anything really new. The way Ubisoft is coming out here and saying you need to get comfortable with this idea, you need to get comfortable with it, and I think a lot of people already kind of are. Now, myself, behind me, you can see a very extensive list of physical games, and I would much rather own a physical copy of a game just to have it on the shelf, to have this nice box to actually display at the same time, mostly because I have the set here and we run things also outside of that. But when it comes to gaming, is it easier to have a subscription-based model? Well, a lot of people do agree. Look at the Game Pass scenario for Xbox and Microsoft. That Game Pass has opened the world to a lot of other places. As for Ubisoft, they're saying what the industry has been doing for a while now. Heading towards this idea where you literally will own nothing and be happy. You will have this subscription-based model, and I think these subscription-based models are absolutely horrific. I think they need regulation. They need something more there to guarantee certain things. Recently, I spoke about how Sony actually was removing a bunch of discovery-based shows on their platform. They've since reversed course because people noticed. We're seeing expansion onto console as the likes of PlayStation and Xbox bring people in. On PC, from a Ubisoft standpoint, it's already been great, but we're looking to reach out more on PC, so we see an opportunity there. One of the things we saw is that gamers are used to, a little bit like DVD, having and owning their games. That's a consumer shift that needs to happen. They got comfortable not owning their CD collection or DVD collection. That's a transformation that has been a bit slower to happen in games. And I believe it was in 2022, you saw DVD and music and CDs actually fall off on the market, and now records are actually selling more than the CD for the year. Part of that is the adoption of the digital-only concept. Digital-only, you've got these massive hard drives. Now you're having to buy a massive hard drive and put all these things on it. So you're still having to physically buy something, but it just breaks it down to a digital-only space. Where when you own a CD, you own the CD, you have that, you can put it in your car, you can put it in your computer. The difference with the physical CDs, DVDs, a lot of times you own an actual version. Now, games like World of Warcraft, does it need to be on CD? God, no. It's such a big game now. That's where these launchers have really taken root. When you have a game that's over 100 gigs, you're now having to dedicate your own version of a hard drive to it. And things like with Steam, where you're able to purchase the game, do the full download, it bypasses that idea for a CD, DVD. And it's not that people are comfortable with it. It's CDs and DVDs are limited by the size. When these games are now taking up their own hard drive space, when you have 100 or 200 gig games near in the future, You're never going to be able to get that on a DVD in the first place. So I think this argument saying that people are used to not owning CDs and DVDs, I think it's kind of moot, because a lot of times if you have a CD for a game, you plug it into your console, you plug it into your PC, and you're still downloading content for that game because of the sheer size of the game, right? I think one of the people that are doing it right now is Nintendo with their version of the Switch cartridges. Those Switch cartridges literally are just an SD drive, a scan disk drive, where you plug it into the Switch and then you go with it. And I think that's more what you need to look at for these games. And as you can see, I have there up on screen a 1 terabyte and a 128 gigabyte hard, like these scan disk drives. For $20, you're looking at a 128 gigabyte drive. CDs were pennies on the dollar. This is the difference. The media is changing. The concept of what we're doing is changing. And these scan disk drives are not cheap. Not like a CD or DVD, but the CD and DVD just do not suit the needs anymore. So that price point is going up. That's one of the major reasons why we're seeing this price point for all games across the board going up. Now, if you can turn around and not have to buy these scan disk drives, where we have the launchers, the Steam store, the Game Pass store, and you just have a hard drive, then it's a different story, because you can get a 1 terabyte hard drive or a 2 terabyte hard drive for, like I said, $100, and that's going to fit a bunch of different games. Now, when you have your own personal hard drive, that takes that out of the equation. So games still going up. It's either we start buying these hard drives that are going to expand so much more of our systems, or they start upping the price of the games for the non-digital version of the game. For the physical version of the games, it's just going to increase that cost even more than what we're seeing already. For companies, the subscription-based model is something where they can always reflect and always look at that subscription-based model. They know this money is coming in, they know it exists, so they can always turn around and see the future with it. And that's what they're trying to do here. They're really trying to see the future. It's in some cases it does have its pros. Like look at Game Pass with Xbox. You have access to Minecraft, you have Starfield on there right now, and you have a plethora of games that are actually top-end titles. But then they leave. At some point they might leave that, and they always will control that idea that's there. They stay in control, and that's more what this is about. Ubisoft wants to sit there and tell us that they're going to do the subscription-based model, but I don't see Ubisoft games being like the top-end versions of games. Microsoft being a giant conglomerate of games now, especially with the acquisition of Activision Blizzard. But then you have Sony. Who's Sony looking at right now? You have Nintendo. Microsoft might be in the market of looking at buying up Nintendo, if that's a possibility. That was something that was revealed in the court cases for Activision Blizzard for the FTC findings, that Microsoft is targeting Nintendo for purchase. So there's quite a few things to really think about with this one. I think Ubisoft is a piss poor company to try and do this thing, to try and say we're going to start charging you a monthly fee. We see it already with Nintendo, we see it with Xbox, we see it with the PlayStation, we see those big three doing that. But Ubisoft doesn't have their own console. They are just a games maker, and I think they would have a better luck going to one of those three and saying, hey, we will sell you our game for your Game Pass, for these subscription-based models that are already out there, and then do that version. I don't think Ubisoft is that big of a company to have the foot to really stand on to say we're going to charge you a subscription-based model. When it comes to that subscription-based model, it's at some point you have to sit there and look at your finances and go, there's too much. I'm paying out too much on the subscription-based model. Look at Netflix. Canadian, I think it's $16 or $17 a month now. what's the difference from these streaming services to owning old school cable at that point? There is no real difference at it. Sure, you get less commercials, but now Amazon Prime is giving you a category where you have to watch commercials or you pay more money to not watch commercials. You see this with YouTube Premium. There is so many different versions of a subscription-based model out there right now. I don't think it's going to help anyone's case by adding more of these subscription-based models. Sure, it's a metric they can follow, but it's not going to do any good. And then Ubisoft's category of gaming isn't a giant plethora of games. They've got a lot of games out there, but it's not like Xbox. It's not like the Nintendo. You've got so much more with those consoles. It makes Ubisoft look like this late to the game, they're trying to play catch-up system, right? It would be like Sega. Sega would have a better idea of coming out with this, but Sega's partnered with Nintendo in a lot of cases. So I believe it's the Sega Genesis is accessible with the Nintendo version of their subscription-based model. So that's kind of more like where it should be. Sega would have more of an idea of being able to do this themselves, but they didn't really start creating new games. They're coming out with very limited games in that sense. Ubisoft, I don't know. I don't see Ubisoft's subscription-based model really taking off. I personally much rather own my physical copy of games, but I also understand that the physical copies have a limitation at this point, and that limitation is where digital is playing a larger role. Anyway, I hope you like the ramblings here. It's a little bit, this was a hard one to really wrap my head around. It's horrible the way Ubisoft is presenting it, saying you need to get used to not owning your games, but also at the same time, digital content is the way things are going, mostly because of space on a hard drive. You can't fit these new versions of games on a disc. You can't fit them the way they are right now. As much as I'd love to have a physical version, it's a lot more behind it. Really, you're buying the game, and if you get the disc at this point, you're loading a launcher that's downloading anyway. So it's not really getting to anything different. Anyway, I've been your proud Canadian Phoenix, Cindershadow. I'm signing off here. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you again very soon.